Hey guys, Mike here from Sell Your Service. I'm with Kelly O'Connell, Principal Product Manager of ActiveCampaign. Hey Kelly, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you for asking. I'm glad we got to sit down with this. So a lot of our guys like to sell marketing automation and sell marketing funnels to their customers, and they want to standardize the product that they're using. What is it that ActiveCampaign has that makes it easier to build a lot of, frankly, very complex and very varied marketing systems for their customers? How does ActiveCampaign help with that? Is there a place that you guys start with? Is there something that you guys recommend to work on first? What's the first part of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually was just part of sort of a revamp of even our onboarding process here at
Okay.
ActiveCampaign. So how we onboard customers, how we talk about it. So really the first thing that we like to think about is just what that customer life cycle looks like for our customers.
Uh-huh.
So just what is point A and what is point B? And then C, D, E, all going through. I think one of the things that we always focus on that maybe other platforms don't is that it's not just that first conversion that sort of ends that whole funnel. It's not just new lead to purchase and then we're done. So it's really thinking about what comes after that. How are we trying to expand, spend that they have with us? Are we trying to build advocacy? But really mapping out that life cycle. And I think what ActiveCampaign does really well is it can pull in sort of each of the data points along that. It's not just new lead purchase and then we're done. It can continue to sort of gather information and allow you to segment on it and build that funnel past just someone's new, I want to send them 3 emails.
Yep.
Well, now as they're doing things, as they're hitting different conversion points, you actually can build out a lot more through that journey than just sort of that first piece of the puzzle, which a lot of platforms do super well.
Yeah.
But I think it's thinking through that and what comes after when they do that.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because I'm really glad you said we hadn't like pre-planned that. And that is also kind of the first thing that we talk about with like our customers that we consult is actually, nurture sequences for new subscribers. That's great. But let's have a look at like who's almost a customer, who's currently a customer.
Right.
AC basically has that already inside a lot of the time. And it can even kind of process that data with like site tracking, lead scoring. There's ways to be able to get that out of data. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just, in any marketing education and in so much of it's just not talked about. It's sort of like we did the thing and it happened and now we just move on. But those customers that have engaged and purchased or converted, whatever that conversion may be, it's a lot simpler to keep them going and get more out of them than it is to continue to generate new leads and try and find ways in which to get new people onto your list. So I think it's really identifying what those different stages are, almost customer, brand advocate, whatever those are, and then figuring out sort of what are those I always envision it as an infinity sign, but what are those conversion points along the way that I'm trying to drive people through? And then there would be sequences that you can build to sort of say, conversion A to B, that's my nurture sequence. B to C, that's going to be more education about my product or service or something like that, once they know who I am. So I think it's sort of identifying those and then we go in and identify, well, what's the messaging? So we sort of go life cycle into messaging. What's the messaging that I want to do in these different phases, in these different cycles? And then how do automations and sequences and funnels sort of play into those messages?
Yeah, and that's something that's I think typically been very difficult to tie together. I remember working with some big data companies, and we were spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on trying to tie together. All right, we understand the data. We understand that 10% of people are close to buying. 5% of people are like raving fans, and then it was kind of like, well, now what? Like actually physically then going, let's write out the email.
Yes.
Let's send that to someone. And when someone clicks, we're going to tag them with, interested or hot or whatever you want to do. The division was between, okay, cool, I know that now, but I can't, it's not insightful unless I can do something with it.
Yeah, I've always found the content to be sort of this like hurdle
Yeah,
that
hurdle is
that
exactly
everyone
the
has
right word.
to get
Yeah.
over, where it's like, oh, now I have to write something
Yeah.
that's actually going to do something, and that's difficult. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for people to come in and provide some great guidance
Mm,
on testing strategies, on let's split it and see what works best, or just turning my biggest thing is let's turn something on and see if it works, and then
yep.
move from there, because I think that's also a big thing is there's this sort of fear of failure, or everything needs to be perfect, or everything needs to be built
Yeah.
out, and it's like, let's just turn something on, see how it performs, and try and improve that,
Yeah.
instead of like spend 80 hours building everything out, and
Yeah.
then you turn it on and it's like broken from the first step or something because
Yeah.
it got built weird. So we do find that content can be really difficult, and
Mm,
we aren't Active Campaign.
mm,
We're not content specialists. We
mm.
know how to build automations, but I think there's a huge opportunity for people to come in and really help customers know, what should messaging be, what should your voice be, how long, what's the call to action, where do we want to get them to go, to get that in there.
And it's interesting that the kind of the tie, especially in the automation place of Active Campaign, we found that the option to be able to go, okay, well, like you said, this life cycle, it's even down to like tiny stages like cart abandonment, for example,
Mm-hmm.
a huge one. And you kind of think, oh, well, the automation's done, so fine, we can take care of that. But just being able to understand that you're trying to bring someone back to that page, I think does help with the content, because you just have to think, well, what do I want to say to just put some life into the system that's already there, that clockwork.
Exactly. Yeah. So I always recommend, we have sort of this feature, this action called a goal.
Yep.
And a goal works in a lot of different ways, but I always like to tell customers that I work with, we shouldn't build an automation or a
Mm-hmm.
sequence without having a goal. We should know what we want everyone to do. What is the sort of happy path if someone comes in here, instead of just, oh, well, I have 30 emails and we'll see what happens, and really thinking about, is it to get back to your site? Is it
Mm-hmm.
to purchase? Is it to click a specific link? Is it to get to another form? And measuring that. So I think what I like about that goal action is it makes you think about what am I trying to get them to do, but also it can measure it for you, and then you can start iterating on that, and seeing how you can push it on that.
Yeah, and that becomes very powerful, particularly when we're selling this to customers, because you're now showing them, oh, all this stuff we did, which they don't really kind of almost care about. It's like a black
Right,
box to them.
right,
But then we go,
right.
oh yeah, we converted five abandonments into 5 sales, and all of
Exactly.
a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well this clearly has an impact on my business. All of the fancy words and stuff, this is now directly affecting my bottom line or whatever they want to go after.
Well, and that's always been marketing's struggle, right? Is
Yeah.
proving the impact that they have to the business. And so I think any way in which you can get a true metric around what this message is doing, how is it attributing to revenue, or whatever that conversion may be. Sorry, I have something in my eye,
It's
which
okay.
is why I'm squinting a bit. But whatever that conversion may be, how is this impacting that? And I think
Yeah.
marketing's always had a little bit of a hard time
Yeah.
proving that in any organization, but anything you can do there. And I think goals are a great way to help with that.
Yeah. And that's like built in as standard, the ability to measure those conversions and goals, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
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 And it's new. It's, only a couple years old, but
Yeah.
it immediately changed people's perceptions of like, oh, wait, what am I trying to
Yeah.
do, instead of just, building out something that may not have a big impact.
Yeah. 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 No, that's awesome. So we've spoken to our customers. We understand the part of the life cycle that we even want to focus on. And I even recommend doing that micro, super specific, the cart abandonment or
Yeah.
stage. We've had a look at the data. We've understood the action that people want to take. I really like that. We've said, what's the happy path that we want someone to take? What comes next? Like, how do we continue adding value using like a platform like AC?
So I think everyone thinks about the happy path. Everyone is like, yay, it happened.
Yeah.
But more often than not, it's not happening. So how do you close that gap? What is that unhappy path? So I like to say, let's build out everything as if people are going to do exactly what we want them to do. And it looks great. And we
Wow.
have that all built out. Well, now what if they don't? What if they
Yeah.
don't convert? What if they don't do the thing? Do we want to continue messaging them? Do
Mm,
we want to put them into a different sequence? Do we want to say goodbye? You know, whatever that may look like, and thinking about those people that are dropping off, how
mm,
can we close the gap there and maybe nurture them back to that conversion? And I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So much is about timing and all of that
mm,
stuff. And so what that unhappy path looks like, I think is just as important as that happy path. But I think building that out secondary
mm.
is the right way to go, because you definitely want to build out the happy one first.
So yeah, that's very interesting. Such a good point, actually, looking at, the unhappy path and that journey that people aren't taking. What are some of the actual, we can geek out a bit because these guys, we all know the kind of terms of like tagging and lists and stuff. Without getting too deep into it, how do we know that, apart from saying, I know that 10% did buy and 90% didn't? Am I using tags? Am I checking with like the automation conversion flows, or do I then add them
Yeah.
to a new list? What do I do
So
with those unhappy guys?
the exciting thing is that you can do it sort of all those ways.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yep.
way I guess I do it when I'm building out an automation, I have my sequence with my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that goal happens, I immediately branch off and say if someone did it and if someone didn't. And then I actually start new automations. So then I have people that did the thing
Okay.
that I
Yep.
want them to do, and that has another goal at the bottom. And
Yep.
then I have people that didn't do the thing that I wanted them to do, and that has probably a very similar goal to the first thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Davis, our director of education. He does our podcast and
Yeah.
sort of
Sure.
all
Yeah.
that. But we call those, modular automations or chunkified automations, but
Yeah.
sort of those pieces. But anytime there's a goal, I immediately have a branch of did the person meet it or not, and
That's
then
very
think
interesting.
through what I want to do.
That's really, again, that seems kind of obvious that that's something that people should be doing. So I'm annoyed now that I haven't got that in all of my
It's
automation.
okay. It's all right.
And it's funny you talk about the kind of the modular aspect. I think one of the reasons that I love kind of jumping into AC's automation is because you can create. We've even got stuff that's just 2 steps.
Yep.
Like I just want to I want to have an if then scenario between like different tags. And it used to be, again, back in the day when we were having to physically code this stuff, we'd have to think about like 3-month schedules for where, and then like newsletters would have to be built into there and all this kind of stuff. But now, like you say, you can kind of affect just 1 or 2 steps at a time, and you have a pathing. I forget what you guys call it. It's like a map
The map.
where you
Yeah.
can get an overview of everything, and
Yeah.
that's your like big process journey.
Well, and I think it's so important because so I'm huge on testing and
Mm.
sort of optimizing and all of that. So, when you see a huge automation, that's the entire life cycle, you have no idea which piece of it
So
isn't
true.
performing or
Yep.
is performing. And so when you start building out just goal to goal to goal to goal,
Mm.
um, you can start seeing this is where I need to focus my attention. And
Mm.
all I'm affecting is this one piece of the puzzle, and nothing else is going to get screwed up. I'm not
Mhm.
going to mess up the flow. It's just
Yep.
this one piece of the puzzle that's not performing as well as the others where I'm dropping off. And so I'm really going to focus in on that. Maybe do some testing, maybe do some segmenting, whatever I can do there. But when I'm looking at a huge, really wide, really long automation, I have no idea where to start with,
Yeah.
what I can look at the message stats, the opens and clicks, but that's rarely as effective as what's the actual conversion of each
Yep.
step along the way.
Yeah. 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 That's a great point. Yeah. And that certainly allows you to have that kind of that level of detail behind it. So kind of stepping back a bit, I've been doing some work with you guys on the conversations, which I
Yeah.
love. And I'm super happy. I'm super excited about
Great.
where that's going. There's some very cool stuff, and Mark as well, who we were having regular conversations with. How did you get into ActiveCampaign and also becoming a product manager, principal product manager? Tell us a bit about your background.
Yeah. So before I joined ActiveCampaign a little over 3.5 years ago, so we were small back then.
Yeah.
But before that, I was with a reseller of ExactTarget. And
Oh, yeah.
so I know what's now the Salesforce Marketing Cloud
Yeah.
really well. I worked with customers. I did some training on it. I built our own internal processes. So I found ActiveCampaign, and I think, I've told Jason this, our founder and CEO, I could do everything that I could do in Salesforce Marketing Cloud in ActiveCampaign in like a tenth of the time.
Yeah.
And so it was fascinating that they had built this robust, really, really flexible platform, but it was so much simpler to sort of get through. But I started as the first customer success manager here and built that team out. So worked with all new customers, onboarding existing customers. How do we sort of fix things or optimize things? And then I moved into, after a few years doing that, I moved into a sales architect role. So I was talking with prospects about their existing stack and how does ActiveCampaign play in and will it work and how does the data flow and sort of all that. And that was really cool because you just start to hear what people are asking for, even if they don't know you can solve that problem.
Yeah.
But you just start hearing some cool stuff that people are trying to do. And then I moved into the product org in September, just knowing the customers really well, knowing the market really well. I've been in marketing automation for 8 years.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a great fit to sort of move over and lead that charge on where we're trying to go as a product and company.
And that's something that I've personally, again, I'm a big fan of with you guys is the pieces that are included, the automation, the campaign creator, deals, conversations, admin, API, all this kind of stuff. I kept this is a while ago. I've been using you guys for ages now, and your sales rep was going through it, and I was trying to catch him out. I was trying to be like, yeah, but can I just send like one-off campaigns? He's like, yeah, we can do that, and then you can also throw them into the automation later. And you're right; it bit by bit becomes kind of this tool, and we've certainly found that it's the CRM and the data system for our customers as well is becoming almost more important than their website, because it's actually their data in the CRM is actually where their customers live, and that's the journey they take. It's just the website often on the front end is kind of the front facing part. But if I had to get rid of them, most people would get rid of their website if they can still communicate to their customers.
Well, and I think that's a big, and maybe this isn't where you were going, but it's a big philosophy of ours that like not everything has to be automated and sort of messaging through the platform. Like we're also huge believers in human touch and personal communication. So if you have that information and let's say you lose all sort of internet messaging, you still have everything about them that you can have to have an actual personal conversation. And so, I mean, you could get rid of email, but you'd still have your entire audience, your entire customer database with everything that they're doing and all that you know about them.
Yeah. And again, we're finding as well that the CRM system as well is something that when people can begin to automate tasks, and again, customers of ours, when we can start to automate tasks based on win, loss, different deal stages, we're taking so much time. And I more and more I'm finding myself saying we're not a marketing company. We're actually an efficiencies company. We're a process company.
Yeah.
Give your guys time back. It's not just the marketing side.
I think that's a big aha moment I've seen where, we're all very comfortable with marketing automation, and we know that there's a scale of how good any platform is at sort of that marketing automation piece. But I think that operational side, that back end side, sort of how am I segmenting my customers, task management, pipeline management,
Yep.
all of that, that's not even messaging to the customer, but is allowing you to be more efficient. That's really where a lot of value is found, because a lot of platforms can do messaging, but to have that blend, to see the whole process
Yep.
in an automation is really, really exciting.
So take us back. Let's go back to kind of, we're a funnel business, or we call ourselves a marketing funnel business. And we've kind of mapped out this. And again, I like the unhappy path. And we've started using kind of the goals approach, which again is a big deal. Is there anything I need to do to like onboard people? Once my customers come on board, and are they going to be using it, or is it just me using it as their automation specialist and they just know that we use ActiveCampaign? Have you ever managed that kind of relationship?
Yeah, I think it can be both, and it's really up to the relationship that you want to have. So we have plenty of people that sort of build it out with the intent of handing over the keys and saying, and they have a massive onboarding, right? They're going through everything. Here's how we've structured everything. Here's where it all is. They're probably using the little notes and automations and saying like, here's what this is. But we have lots of people that also just manage that account for their customer and are more providing reports and optimization suggestions and changes there. Or if the customer themselves has a change in strategy or a new lead source or something like that, how do we want to bring that in and sort of handle it? So I've seen both relationships, but I think when you're sort of handing over the keys, that onboarding must be much more detailed. Okay. Whereas when you're managing the account, it's much more, here's what we've done on a high level, but here's what we're measuring, and here's what we're going to try and improve over time. And here's how we're going to provide sort of that information to you.
Yeah. That's interesting. I suppose there's a big difference between the onboarding, like you say, of handing the keys over. How often do you find, if at all, if this kind of works, recurring revenue is a big thing for us, for our guys, and that ongoing maintenance? You guys have like a reseller portal, an admin portal?
We do, yeah. So we have a few ways to do it. We have the reseller model, which is where the reseller actually is in charge of all the billing of all of their sort of child accounts. But they have a portal where they can see all of the accounts that they're over, and they can log into any of them. They can see, are they nearing their limit? What's engagement like on any of them? So they can log into one portal and then see all of their accounts and access all of their accounts and change plan. If one of their customers wants to upgrade or needs a new feature or something like that, they can change plans and all of that. We also have, the affiliate model, which is, I'm not going to own the billing, but they're going to, be associated to me, and you can earn some commission on that. And then that would be more of a partnership between you and the customer to figure out how, do I have access? Am I the admin? That sort of thing.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I'd forgotten you got the affiliate side as well. Cause I know a lot of, I'm assuming, actually, I don't know, and maybe you'd be able to shed some light on this, the blend between the individual customer, so the person who owns the t-shirt shop or the e-commerce shop, and they go into ActiveCampaign, compared to the marketing expert who says, well, I know that ActiveCampaign is the tool that I want to use. Do you have any idea, like, the ratio that you guys have? I don't know if you're even allowed to talk about that. Like, what does that look like?
So by marketing expert, do you mean like an outside person from the company going in? So like a consultant or a reseller?
Yep.
Yeah, it's about like 80-20 to customer reseller.
Oh, see, that's fascinating to me. See, that to me is like, there's like a huge opportunity for resellers and partners then to kind of
of course
use this as the tool.
Yeah, no, I think there's a huge opportunity, and there are customers that, depending on if they're just signing up for ActiveCampaign and using it, there's probably opportunity for them to be doing so much more than they know, especially sort of the one-man team that's owning everything and really just wants to run his business and do what he loves, and not have to log into ActiveCampaign every day, but knows that this is an integral part of his business. I think there's a huge opportunity there to really go in and make an impact and set things up the right way and continue to grow them.
Yeah, we've even found just kind of showing to people like, well, this is how you could set up a tag, and this is like the amount of times we go in and they've just got one list.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, we could segment it. And you kind of just kind of explain to them. And I think a lot of business owners, part of this comes back to kind of, I suppose, one of your competitors, MailChimp. I think they did a really good job of lowering the barrier to entry of what is email marketing. I think they did a fantastic job there. But it kind of now has gone to the point where everyone's like, oh, well, I'll just do that then. I'll send a newsletter once a week. I'm like, you could do so much more. So if someone's already got ActiveCampaign and we come in as an agency, is there anything, again, apart from kind of the life cycle stuff we've looked at and the segmentation, is there anything else, or maybe we just focus on them, that we can do with people who are already using it, maybe not to its fullest extent?
I think it's that growth, right? I think it's that focus on growth. So one of the biggest issues with automation that I hear everyone say is, oh my gosh, it's just set it and forget it. And that gives me the chills, and it makes me uncomfortable, because what works today is not going to work in 6 months, is not going to work in 1 year. And so I really think it requires eyes much more regularly than people think. And then as your business grows, as you have new inputs to your funnel, as you have new levers you can pull and push, and you have different ad sources, and you have different data points that you're gathering, all of that's going to drastically change what that funnel looks like. And so I think that sort of aspect of continued optimization, continued testing, continued tweaking, and it's all based on the same fundamentals of segmentation and measuring conversions. But the way in which you do it and helping them understand sort of how it's all connected. If I change this thing down here at the bottom of the funnel, how is that going to change this thing up here? I think that's really, really impactful. The other thing is, it can be easy to sort of build ActiveCampaign in a vacuum. So, I've got my forms and I've got my messages and I have my output, but what are all of the other things happening in my business? And this is where we really rely a lot on our consultants, like website strategy, ad strategy, all of that sort of stuff that we're not experts in here at ActiveCampaign, but a lot of marketing experts know, and then they can bring that into the funnel and really change how it performs.
Yeah, because there's the I forget what you guys call it now, like attribution. Relatively recent. In terms of kind of how long it's been out, and that was a big part of it. We were like, okay, well, now that we understand that, someone coming through a paid Facebook ad for this one is actually more likely to buy at this stage. That was a big insight for us. And when we started exploring that with customers, we were finding that more and more they were looking at us to find other areas of opportunity, just because of what we could see now, with what was happening with their users and customers.
Yeah, I think that's a big area of opportunity, is sort of expanding that scope of marketing and what all they're doing everywhere, and how that plays into their customer life cycle. Because, if they call ActiveCampaign and ask us, well, we have just what we see here in the platform. And so I think having that perspective and having that expertise is really beneficial to people who may be moving up from, a MailChimp, where even that initial education is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So we start on the life cycle and then move into a little bit into the messaging. And we know what we want to measure. When we're looking at those kind of goals, can you give us some examples of like, what's a good thing to start measuring? And, why would I want to maybe look at one goal over another?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, well, I'll try and think of like a basic example. So when I'm just measuring the effectiveness of my email, there's a big difference in, do I want people to open it or do I want people to click? If I have a newsletter, if I have an informative message, I care a lot about that open. But if I need to get you back to my site, then I care a lot more about that click. And so that's one little like example. But I think thinking of what's going to get them to the next level. So some obvious conversions are purchase,
Sure.
abandoned a cart.
Yeah.
But there's also, if I have a series of courses, I'm going to be measuring how did they take course 1 and
Great
did
point.
they take course 2 and where did they sort of drop off. And so I think it just depends on a lot of things, but usually the conversions are a little bit bigger than people are normally thinking. It's not just get back to my site, but get back and do what on the site. It's sort of one level further than a lot of people think. And so it's not just that call to action, it's converting on that call to action. Did you get them back to another form? And so thinking about that as the goal and the click as a means to get to the goal is sort of this intermediary step. I think some people think the click is what it is, but really it's the conversion on the page that they got to.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting. So one of the things that we try to do is we'll actually try and basically just set up one goal to start with. I'm like, let's just literally pick one thing and then just see if we can measure it accurately.
Yeah.
For all I know, like we haven't set something up. That's okay. Like you don't have to try and measure and set goals for everything or start on one thing. What do you reckon?
No, I mean, I think if you're an e-commerce business, you want to measure purchases, you want to measure abandoned carts, but I think for other things, it doesn't all need to be built out from the get-go. So what is the biggest thing that I really, really know that I want to start measuring? Let's just go ahead and start. And then we can start thinking about, there's this middle thing that everyone's doing before they do that thing. Do I want to measure that? Do I want to see if I can optimize that a little and maybe putting a goal in there? I think you'll naturally start seeing drop-off points or increased engagement points, and you'll say, okay, that's something I really want to keep eyes on. And then you can, build a goal around that.
I like that. So kind of beginning to wrap this up now, is there anything else that us as funnel builders, we need to know about using a tool like ActiveCampaign with our customers, like putting it to them, selling it to them, anything you can think of?
I think it really is about being transparent about what's going on. So we've had lots of customers move to us from other platforms where they've had consultants or people build something out. And the minute they move, one of their biggest frustrations is, I had no idea what was built. I have no idea how it works. And so when they start noticing differences in their business, they're going to point to the black box, right? And they're going to say, it must be that. It must be that thing that I don't know what it is. And so being really transparent about what's being built and how it's working, even throwing them through it and showing them, okay, if you came in this way, this is what's going to happen to you. And just being really, really transparent. I also, when I had customers that were working with consultants, I had a weekly call with them. What'd we change? What'd we tweak? And so it was really, really clear. They sort of had their business strategy. I was the ActiveCampaign expert, and then they had the consultant who was building it all out. And that sort of sync kept the customer really involved with what they were doing. But that's the biggest thing I've heard when customers move over is they're just like, I have no idea what's happening. And so when something goes wrong, they're going to say it's that. And you don't want to put yourself in that position. So
no, that's great. I think that's a fantastic, again, it's kind of out of left field. I was expecting something, again, more automation based, but no, you're right. No, not at all. We forget that, again, it's the technology in some respects is almost irrelevant because it's still human beings talking to other humans. Right. Even in the automation space, that's what's really important.
Yeah, I think so. Product wise, I would just say, really embracing we have a culture value of iterate everything always. And I think we suggest that to everyone. So how do we make it better? How do we make it better? How do we make it better? And constantly pushing customers to think that way. So I built this out. Let's look at it again in 2 months, look at the numbers, figure out what we want to test and build and optimize.
Yeah. And that would be, actually, that's a good point. Give it time. Like,
yes.
Don't make your customers bully you into saying, give us the report. It's been live for 24 hours now. Tell us what's happened. It's like, just,
Yeah, it definitely takes takes some time. Eyes are great just in case, like, for some reason one day nothing happens, and then you
Yeah.
can say, what happened there. But it takes some time to really make sure it's not just some fluke 24-hour
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
No, I like that a lot. That's perfect. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on and talking
Of
us through
course.
that.
Thank you.
I really
This was
appreciate it.
fun.
Good. And I'm glad. I really appreciate you kind of walking us through some of that stuff. What's the next step then? How can people kind of get started with ActiveCampaign? If people want to reach out to you, are you on Twitter or anything?
I am on Twitter, so I'm at Kelly_Virginia.
Very good.
You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. But
Yep.
if you're curious about ActiveCampaign, activecampaign.com, we have a 2-week free trial. Reach out to me if you don't want to be contacted by our salespeople. I can get you out of our funnel.
Yep.
But yeah, I would really recommend playing around with it. We have, like we talked about, the reseller community, the certified consultants, the affiliates. So we have a lot of ways to really get involved with our customer base. But would love y'all to set up trials if you don't already have them, but reach out to us if you have any questions.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put a link below. Again, Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. I'll let you get on with the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Cheers. Bye now.